it's your $2 Tuesday movie critic here. Once again, looking at the Oscar nominations for 2023. Our category today is documentary short film. So these were some really great documentaries. I know I probably said it before in previous segments, but documentaries is one of my top five favorites categories. I love a good documentary. So these were short films, so all of them were under an hour. So if you get a chance to watch them, they're all available on streaming services, or you can even go to the New York Times for a couple of them, the New York Times website, to get a couple of them too. They're really, really compelling. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is The Elephant Whisperers. This documentary takes place in India in 2019. It is a little over 40 minutes long. It tells the story of the elephant Raghu and the people that take care of him, Belly and Bowman. They both come from generations of elephant caretakers. There are other animals and people at the animal reserve, but this documentary focuses on how their family of three lives, then grows to four when Amu arrives. They raise the elephant successfully to still be thriving. In the documentary, they show a lot of really beautiful and wonderful things and some sad things. Like they show how Belly and Bowman end up getting married in the movie. They also show how, unfortunately, Raghu is taken to another animal reserve, and even though they're able to keep Amu, and they show how they, grieve the loss of their friend because and their child, which is how they treat him. And I understand that. I'm a mother of plenty of four-legged furry babies. They're not elephants, but animals. Elephants are my top five animal that I love. So, yeah, it is very, very sweet, very lovely to watch. So if you get a chance, The Elephant Whispers is an excellent viewing. All right, so the next documentary short film nominated is Haul Out. This is a New Yorker documentary about the study of the effects of global warming on the annual event that happens with the walruses. It takes place in the Siberian Arctic, where over 65,000 walruses come out of the ocean to rest. They are running out of land to do this. It is a very sad yet informative film. Because they do, as I stated before, they come out of the water to rest at this point where a scientist or just a viewer comes and watches and does a count of how many horses are there. Before this, years ago, they had enough ice so that they could actually rest in layers. There was higher hills and things like that so that they could rest. Unfortunately, with global warming, there is less land for them to rest on. So they end up crushing each other, or some end up drowning because there is no place to rest. And then some are killed so that others can get space. It's a very sad story. And then it has this very cute moments, like the in the beginning of the movie where you see the viewer coming to uh, set up his little cabin for the viewing and the counting and everything like that. And, he comes every day, goes night, goes day, and then all of a sudden, one day he opens the door and a walrus is in its face. It's very cute. So it's a very heartwarming and, yeah, at the same time, very sad movie. Also very informative. So it's one of those that you should watch if you get a chance. And again, less than an hour. Okay, so our next documentary nomination is How Do You Measure a Year? Now, this was one that I didn't get to watch. I saw previews because they were on the um the the websites for on YouTube. Basically, they have previews, but you weren't able to see the movie. What it is HBO has acquired the documentary with worldwide and television rights from Jay Rosenblatt, who is the creator, director of this documentary. Coinciding with Father's Day, the documentary will debut in June 2023 on HBO and be available to stream on HBO and HBO Max. So if you want to watch it, then I will. I want to see it. It looks cute. And it looks like a cute documentary, but I wasn't able to see it, so I'm not really going to say anything about it. I will just move on to our next nomination, which is the Martha Mitchell effect. Now, I had heard the name Margaret Mitchell before and the term gaslighting, which is pretty much, I think, where that term originated from because of what happened to her. This is the Martha Mitchell effect. Martha Mitchell was the wife of John Mitchell, who worked on Richard Nixon's campaign, and he was also his former attorney general when Nixon became president. When Nixon was being investigated for Watergate, he and the Republicans chose to turn a negative light on Martha Mitchell to steer away from that investigation. After Nixon was reelected, he began to make John Mitchell a scapegoat. In the end, Martha tried to protect John, but John worked with President Nixon to discredit Martha. However, she survived and persevered to prove she was right. Nixon and his co conspirators were removed from office. Martha was vindicated, and a year later, she died from a blood disease. Unfortunately, I found this story very, very sad. This woman who ultimately initially, she just wanted to have a voice, like most people. And she was told to, at first, and actually initially, according to the documentary, no one had a problem with it. Even her husband, he was saying she was more famous than he was, and she was. The camera loved her. She loved talking, and it was all good. And when the scandal came out with Watergate, she immediately said there is more to this. And because she had a connection to one of the men that happened to be involved with the Watergate scandal. And she tried to let people know, hey, this isn't just about a break in. This is way more. You all need to look into this. And everybody laughed at her. Oh, Martha, with your silly self. And John sent her away to California so she could get out of D.C. She made a big fuss about that. She always used the press to her advantage. And actually, that at some points in time, I'm sure, helped to save her life, even though she still went through a lot of bad things simply because she wanted to use her voice. And of course, she was right about the Nixon Watergate scandal. There was more to it. And Nixon did try to frame her or use her husband as a scapegoat. And this is the part that seems almost the worst to me. Nixon is trying to hurt her husband. He's saying, no, this is not true. And his wife is backing him up in this. But because she not only backs her husband up and speaks for him, but she speaks against Nixon. And that is something that her husband could not forgive and would not back her up in. And in the end, he just went against her. And he was with Nixon and basically trying to ruin her reputation, which they did not. And what they did do was only temporary. Because even after she died, she became a very infamous character, politics as a whole. So this was a very wonderfully done documentary, especially being a documentary short film. It was really done well. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate learning a lot more about Margaret Mitchell. Okay, so our last nomination for documentary short film is Stranger at the Gates. Now, this film takes place in Muncie, Indiana. It involves the McKinney family and the Islamic population in the city. Richard McKinney is a veteran that had deployed to Afghanistan. He was taught one way in the military about how to treat and how to look towards Muslim people. Basically, they were the enemy. Then he returns home, and he still has those teachings embedded in his head. One day he goes to an Islamic mosque to burn the building, um, and to kill as many people as possible. His whole life changes after that. And I won't see what happens. This was a very interesting story. And I have to say, I had never heard of it before. And as I watched it, I was thinking it would end one way and it ended completely another way. And as the little girl, his daughter says at the beginning of the documentary, when she tells people this story, most of them say they can't believe it because it's quite unbelievable, how it all ends up turning out. But it is true. It is a true documentary, and it goes towards looking at racism, the way that our government agencies sometimes embed these things into the minds of our soldiers. And then at the end of it all, don't do anything to help them get rid of these notions. And it also goes towards um, just being a kind person and meeting people where they are and not trying to make them any more than that. It's a beautiful documentary. I liked it. It did have me feeling all kinds of emotions though. Really, especially watching it and seeing the people that were involved in it speak about it. So for me, these were all wonderful documentaries. It was hard for me to pick one that I thought was the best. I really did love the Margaret, I'm sorry, I really did love the Martha Mitchell effects. That documentary, it was great, but I love a great animal documentary, which was The Elephant Whisperers and Haul Outs. Um, Actually, that was my favorite one, The Elephant Whisperers, only because it shows the relationship between humans and animals in such a beautiful way, in such a realistic way that, most people don't get to see. And I think people should see that. It was just so lovely. But all the documentaries are great, and any of them that win deserve it because they were all just so wonderful. Okay, so that is our segment for now. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think at the bottom of the screen, and I hope to see you next time.